Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Game Pass Grab Bag, your weekly podcast reviewing games of the Game Pass collection. Bring you three unique perspectives of varying skill range. I am the warrior of this episode, Andrew. With me, our giant pain in the ass, Keith.
Hello.
And the little voice in my head, Liz.
Hey, guys.
And this week, I picked the game. We played, well, this time it's Senua Saga, Hellblade 2. They switched it around. Before it was Hellblade, Senua Sacrifice. Now they switched it around. But anyway, this is by Ninja Theory. Hellblade 2 is a narrative-driven third-person game where you are playing, continuing Senua's story, where, after the first game, I don't want to spoil too much, but it does do a recap, but you are essentially continuing the journey, and you're trying to avenge the love of your life from the first game. But real quick, this episode is sponsored by our new sponsor, Magic Mind. So we'll get into that. But going around, Liz, I really want to know from you, Liz. You did not like the first one. You gave the first one a pass, if I remember. So did Hellblade 2?
Oh, man. I meant to look up our scores for the first one. I don't know what I gave it. That bothers me.
But tell us, Liz, was this any different? Did this change your mind?
Yeah, I went into it thinking this is going to be one of those, I think it's like a fantastic game, just not for me. But then I ended up liking it. And I was really surprised. I thought it was more accessible. And there's so many little things that, like my preferences. It's like they were like, what does Liz want? And they changed everything to my liking. No, but in all seriousness, I do think that there's so many things, like even like graphically, storyline wise, that I like more. And so for me, it's a game. And I definitely like this one more.
So, I mean, I originally was going to say this is a definite game, especially if you like the first one. I thought my original saying was if you didn't like the first one, this one probably wouldn't change your mind. But Liz here, I guess, it changed her mind.
Because I said over and over again, I didn't want to play this. I was like, can't you get somebody else to do it?
But I was like, come on, Liz, this game is pretty short. It's like 6 hours long. I was like, you could do this. And yeah, for me, I really, really liked Hellblade 2. So what this game is not, this is the big kicker of whether or not you're going to like this game. If you haven't played the first one, well, first of all, you should play the first one. But this is not an action game. This isn't like hyper like combat. Honestly, for the most part, this is kind of a walking simulator. It's telling a very cinematic story, which I always hate when people say that line of like, oh, we're blending the line between movie and video games. Like Hideo Kojima just came out and announced that he's making a new game with Jordan Peele. And that was the phrase they kept saying of like, oh, we're blurring the line. This game, I think, actually legitimately blurs the line between like a movie and a game. I really enjoyed my time with Hellblade 2. This is a definite game.
Well, I mean, you started out your
I can't hear him.
Your review with saying that you didn't think this would change anyone's mind. And I would have agreed with you. But again, Liz, I think, I don't know, I think what's interesting was what Liz said she likes more about this one is I think what I like maybe just a little less about the second one versus the first one. Now, that said, I think that overall I would say that Hellblade 2 is a definite game. I think you should go back and play the first one if you're still available, or get it and play it and then play the second one, because it really is just a continuation and does largely the same things. But I think that, as far as the overall experience or gameplay, some of the puzzles weren't quite as good as they were in the first one. I don't think it had some of the same tense moments that the first one had. But otherwise, fantastic. Definite game overall.
So getting to the story of Hellblade 2, I'm going to try to be vague here. Obviously, we try to avoid spoilers as best we can. So if you did not play Hellblade 1, technically you don't have to play it, because this Hellblade 2 does something fantastic that more games need to do, and it has a recap. I don't understand why sequel games don't do recaps. Like the last one I could think of was Psychonauts 2 when we played that. But I mean, that made sense because it was like a 15-year between the two games. But this one has, Hellblade, the first one I think is like 7 years ago. But
I was
this one
gonna
is
say
a
2017, I thought.
yeah, but this is a fantastic recap. So if you didn't play the first one, you could just watch this recap.
It helped
And
me.
yeah,
I don't have a good memory, so I actually kind of needed it.
and the first story too is a little bit vague. Some of it's kind of like open up to interpretation. But it's weird that games just don't do recaps. But yeah, so it does it. And so yeah, you don't need to play the first one, but there will be some context that you're not quite getting and understanding. I think you can still play Hellblade 2 and enjoy the story for what it is. You'll just miss some of the context. But
Yeah, like her relationship with her father was talked about a lot about in the first one,
yeah,
and in this one too. But
in which yeah, but they
I feel like
it's kind of a blink and you miss like the important significance of the father and the mother. In the first one, obviously, it does way more information about them. But yeah, as far as the story goes, you know, as I said, this is continuing the story of Senua's saga, and you know, she purposely gets captured to be traded with the Northmen who originally came and have raided her village and destroyed everyone. So she's basically trying to sneak in, infiltrate the Northland, and trying to stop the slave trade so there's no more blood that's being spilled and that she can kind of free the people. But obviously, things aren't as they appear. Plans don't go as they are planned. And oh, there's giants. Okay, that's in the trailer, so I can reveal that snippet. There's giants in the land that she has to end up fighting. So that I guess is not a spoiler. But yeah, what did you guys think of this game's story? Because I loved it.
One of my favorite things with this game is that you end up kind of traveling with other people. And
there's way more NPCs in this game than there was in the first.
Yeah, I thought the characters were really interesting. I predicted something at the end, which I won't say. But she also
You predicted that? I'm assuming you're talking about somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, I predicted that. I knew that was going to happen because it was
I figured somebody.
I knew who it was
Right.
because of her connection, like how they related to each other, and then also just when you I don't know if I can say this, but whenever a character does something wrong, like really, really bad, even if they become good, usually, you know,
redemption arc.
Do we want to do a spoiler thing at the end?
Maybe at the end. In some ways, you really can't talk much about the story because I even have questions that I think relate to the gameplay that would ultimately spoil things. So I don't. I can say at the very least that as someone who generally doesn't care for stories or storyline and story-driven games, and I had pointed this out the same as you did in our Discord, where at points I think the gameplay can kind of feel like a little bit like a walking simulator. The thing about Senua for me is it's an experience of a game. Like it's not just about the gameplay, because in some ways I think the gameplay kind of lacks, but it's the overall audio, the visual, the way it kind of sticks with your.
Yeah, I think you just unplugged your mic, Keith.
Okay, there we go. But yeah, I don't know. Record audio is lost valuable location. Okay.
But yeah, no, I agree. Like this is what I'm warning people about, because like any negative review I've seen from people are like, oh, this isn't much of a game. Like I don't think they quite understand what this is. And I know some people kind of take this as an insult, but this game is kind of a walking simulator. And what's here for puzzles and combat for what you're actually doing is very simple and simplistic. But I like it because to me, this whole game is about telling the story. And I loved that it was more fluid of how the puzzles and the combat's done, because I wanted more of the story. I thought it was so well told. I loved the characters. Oh, I forgot to mention part of if you haven't played Hellblade 1, the main important part of this story too is Senua, the main character, suffers from psychosis. So she has these voices that speak in her head, and they give her doubt, they give her advice, they kind of give you kind of clues, which, by the way, that's the other thing I loved about this game. Because so Liz, you hated the voices in the first one. You found them annoying.
It didn't bother me as much this time, but I also think too, like the game itself was less like the first one was overstimulating. I felt like the environments, the like different things going on and then the voices on top. Like I just felt like this one, not only did I understand the story more, so it was like more enjoyable listening to them, but yeah, it's also hard too because like I sometimes didn't like the voices because well, what they were saying, they were
Yeah.
making her doubt and feel guilty, and I'm just like, you shut up, you leave Senua alone.
Well, that's the great thing. I don't know if you noticed in the first one, they definitely like gnaw at her. Like anytime they were giving self-doubt, like Senua, you could see that she was struggling with it. In this one, you could see she has more control. So those voices are giving her doubt, but there's times she'll tell them to shut up so she can have a moment of silence, or like she'll actually like she can control kind of them better.
But there's a lot of times where she's, she has to make a decision. It happens quite a few times where the voices are going back and forth, like, no, she's going to do this, she's going to do this. But it almost made it seem like you were going to pick the way that they were saying that. And part of me was like, hey, I kind of want to pick. And then I was like, actually, no, I don't. I don't want consequences.
Which, this is going to be a little spoiler, but I'm curious. There was one moment you kind of picked, but I think it was irrelevant, in the woods.
Yeah, I accidentally, I guess, quote unquote, picked because I didn't realize what was happening. I was just kind of strolling along
he was further away though. She was right there. Is that what you're talking about?
I picked the guy. Yeah, you picked the girl.
Oh, I accidentally went to the girl. I mean, I would have picked the guy.
I mean, it was irrelevant.
I kind of liked him more.
Yeah.
Which I'm kind of disappointed in, but because it would have been nice to kind of have maybe things you could choose to maybe change your path a little bit. But obviously that's not what the studio is going for. The studio was going to trying to tell the story. You okay there, Keith?
Fucking kidding me.
Well, there goes our PG-13 rating there.
The stupid wire, and I like caught it, and apparently I can't move or I'm gonna fuck up the whole thing. So
now I gotta edit so much of this now, Keith.
Jeez, sorry.
Just do it.
I'm really irritated with my mic right now, so that I apologize.
I wish that the game, I mean, I was gonna say I wish the game was longer, but kind of not with like the way that it's set up. I thought it was a good length, but I do wish I knew more about the other characters. Like they actually got me kind of invested. And then it's hard too because like there was that scene where she was fighting one of the giants, which their stories are complicated too. Like you have mixed emotions about the evil giants, how they became evil and stuff. But there was like one point where one of the people that didn't make it, not a spoiler, but she was fighting a giant and lots of people didn't make it, but one of them looked like one of the other characters, and I'm like, wait, they're just gonna like show the back of him like that? But it was somebody else. But I was a little nervous. But yeah, even those stories, I feel like I used to see things as very like black and white, and now I almost don't like that. I'm like, I feel bad for like the evil people or people who do evil things.
Well, that's what is so good about the storytelling, because I love almost kind of the twist at the end of explaining of like how Senua is developing as a character, and she's reflecting on these people that she met and like understanding why the choices that they made and why they did it. It was all about like protecting people and the people that you love and what she would do if she was in their kind of situation.
Yeah.
And I loved that idea. Like this story I thought was so much better than the first one, because the first one, well, all right, I have a little bit mixed feelings. So in the first one, it was very kind of vague. She's very much by herself. So majority of the game, even still now, I can't tell if the first one actually happened or if it was more just like what was going on in her head. Like that's what she thinks was happening because there's no one else there to like confirm what was going on. In this one, it's definitely more grounded and realistic because there's people there with her and they're confirming the things that she's seeing. So this one's a bit more grounded.
And I have doubts about all that too. And that's where partly like I was saying I have some questions that I think maybe they need to be asked in a more spoiler type of area in regards to the story. But I kind of question a lot of, and I think this is the point of the story and the gameplay and all of that, is I question a lot of what's real in this overall arc, because there's even points where like you go through there's one chapter in particular where you go to a cave and then you have this whole sequence. But then all of a sudden someone else shows up, and I think in reality, like you just walked into this cave and were gone for like 5 minutes, but this whole sequence happens in imagination, not in imagination, but like in a like either a separate world or your
Like a mind
imagination or
journey.
whatever. Yeah, like it's not really there, I guess. And I guess to say it's not really there is always implied, but if you don't go anywhere, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. Yeah, there are those kind of scenes, even too with the forest. But the forest, because like you all get separated and you're kind of seeing things like that. But yeah, like, but at least like when it comes to like the giants and kind of some of the other mythological things that are going on, like those are essentially kind of confirmed by the other people.
Yeah, I don't. That's all a weird thing to me still.
Oh, don't get me
I don't
wrong.
know.
I mean, it is weird. That's kind of the whole point of the game. It's meant to be kind of a psychological journey.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think the one thing that I noticed too is that the first one it centered more around, like you're being alone, the fear and all of that. And then this one was more on guilt and like not really necessarily alone, because you said you have traveling companions. There's all these people she talks about being lost where she could have saved them and this and that. So it's like none of this one is where like you're alone. It's just about guilt. And that's like it's when like the first sequence of the game, the voices are like, "Stop, don't go," and then you watch someone get murdered, and then they start like pin and needling you about like, why did you let them die? How could you do that? Why would you do that? And you're like, because you stopped. I wanted to, and you said no, and then you're blaming me, and the voices are just like, I mean, they're gaslighting you effectively, and it starts to like mess with you a little bit because it's just literally in your ears if you're wearing headphones, and it's back and forth left and right on the audio, not to get ahead on that, but they it's not just about the dialogue, it's how they do the audio. Everything is part of the story, and it's a cool part of it.
Yeah, well, you bring it up, really say it now, because I forgot to mention this during my Gamer Pass segment. Absolutely wear headphones with this game. It's suggested at the beginning. You need to wear it. It is just all part of the experience, and it works so well.
I did both, and I don't think it's like 100% necessary.
Oh, how dare you!
Because I played 2 hours one night without it, 2 hours one night with it. I will say our dog did not like the audio of this game. And so I could tell it was like irritating her a little bit, but she wanted to be next to me, so she didn't move. But then when I had the headphones on, she moved to the other side of her like couch pillow. Like and she never does that. Like she definitely did not like the audio of this. So I mean, if you have dogs or cats, I'm really curious if they if they like it.
See, I feel like you need the audio.
Well, I didn't do it in the cave, and I actually think that you're right with like especially the cave scene.
Oh my gosh, yeah, the cave scene.
But I also like I'm playing it alone at night. I don't need that spook factor.
It wasn't really spooky.
You told me it was. You told me
okay. Actually, no, you're right.
Stuff.
You're right. I was playing on xCloud and I had earbuds in, and there was a couple of times where I'm like, oh, like was that in the room or was that in the game?
Yeah, where I feel like the first game it was more tense because like, for instance, when you're running through the buildings or like the different areas and the fires like kind of closing in on you, it's really tense versus like spooky.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't like the tense thing with the first one with the fire. There was a little bit of fire in this one, but I was very grateful that it wasn't like last time.
But yeah, this game, like I said, it's definitely something I personally feel like you just need to wrap yourself in and focus. But speaking of focus, real quick, I want to mention our wonderful sponsor, Magic Mind. They gave us another month's supply of their wonderful product, these wonderful 2-ounce shots that are a mind performance enhancer. And I gotta say, I've taken it now for a week, and I've been working third shift again, and I was like, you know what? I am drinking way too much coffee. my mind is all over the place because if you ever work third shift, you never quite get sleep. You go home, and I also have a 4-year-old, so I try to come home, maybe get like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Got to get up, got to go back to work, and I have a hard time focusing. I have a hard time completing tasks around the house. And after just these 7 days I've been doing with, I've noticed a massive improvement.
You were so excited when they came in the mail.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I love when we just get product. Like, we also have another sponsor coming up that it's just like, ooh, like, I love free food and drinks. And I gotta say, Matt, this is the third time we've had Magic Mind, and it is great. Like, I'm not just saying that. Like, their product is really good. I notice a massive difference. How about you, Keith? I know you just got it too.
No, I mean, the one thing I always say is that it actually tastes pretty good. I never expected to. Like, I never actually do every time. I'm like, it's kind of, I don't know. These are a bunch of things I don't really know, but I'm gonna trust it. I swear there's some fruit in there, and they're not. That's what the secret is. There's apples or pears. It's. I keep saying it. I've been saying it the whole time.
I like your guessing. You literally have the ingredients list with you, Keith. Like,
well, they don't list the fruits, just their magic ingredients.
I'm pretty sure it's passion fruit.
Oh, is it? It could be.
They're really gonna love this.
Either way, it's really good. And the only thing that I would say I think I have as a complaint is that I end up just having my one coffee with it in the morning, and then I don't have more, and then I fall asleep at night. Some would say that's not a problem.
Yeah.
It probably isn't.
I fall asleep.
But it cuts into my gaming time, and so I'm going to call it a problem, but I'm also not going to complain about it, and I'm actually going to keep taking, because that's probably better that I sleep. So thanks, Magic Mind, for accidentally making me sleep.
Sleep better. Yeah, for me, like I said, I work third shift. I usually drink 30 ounces of coffee in my 12-hour shift. And ever since I've been doing it this past week, I only drink maybe half of my cup. Because like it's not like coffee replacing, like it has caffeine in it, but I just feel good. So it's like sweet. But don't just take our word for it. Check it out. Go to magicmind.com/GameP and use promo code GameP20 and get 48% off your first subscription or 30% off your first order. But I'll have the details in the video show link. So check it out. We highly recommend this product. It's really good. Not just saying that. I love it. But yeah, getting into the gameplay though of Hellblade 2.
Yeah, can I just say, you brought up like the word focus, and the focus ability. I have to say, my favorite thing with this game, and there's so many games we've done that doesn't do this. If you're in the middle of combat and you hit it, but like your character is just about to do like a finisher, like kill an enemy.
With the focus in the combat, so like the slow-mo.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It saves the focus for the next one. And there's so many games where it's just like, oh, it's wasted. I mean, if they hit you before you use it, I mean, it disappears. But if you just hit it and then it's like, oh, it's the finisher time, and then you still have it, that more games need to do that. That really made me happy.
So as I recall, like, and you said this, Andrew, so I'm not gonna like knock it, even though I think the first one did more of it, is there's not a lot of fighting in this one compared to the first one, especially. Like, the first one didn't have a ton, but there was a couple more boss fights, as I recall, that were a little bit more punishing.
Yep.
And I thought you even had a few different skills, whereas this is just basic attack and your focus skill the whole time.
Yep.
And that's about it. And then there's, I guess, really one boss fight. Everything else is some sort of platforming puzzle.
So,
but also the puzzles just weren't really as strong in this one.
And this is, though, for me, I've seen some people obviously complain about this. This to me was a huge positive, because this is the game is trying to tell a story and to have you go through things. Because I remember the first one, yes, I agree. There was boss fights and you were more fighting like one, maybe two enemies. It was more focused, but sometimes it was frustrating. So the combat, even in the first one, they have it in this one as well. The difficulty is default set to adaptive. So if you're playing really well, you're beating the guys really easily, like it ramps up the difficulty on you without telling you. It'll just naturally get harder and just feel more organic. So it does it again here. But yeah, it's not hard at all, which to me is good. Like, I remember being frustrated in the first one where I'm doing well, I'm enjoying the story, then I get a guy and he just smokes me. And it's like, now I got to wait for a loading screen, do it again. He beat me again. And it's like, oh, okay, let's do this again. And same with the puzzles. sometimes the puzzles. So in the first one, there was only like one type of puzzle, and it was a find the hidden image. Like, this is your symbol. Go find it in the world, and you'd have to find it in the debris somewhere. They have those a couple times in this one, but it's just easier and just more organic. And once again, that's what I like. The game is just always flowing. I never felt frustrated when I died, because there's another segment. I mean, I'm just gonna let you guys talk, but I loved this. There's a couple kind of boss fights. When you fight the giants, you kind of go in their mental scape. And like the first one is a fire giant. You see them in the trailer a lot. But you do this segment where you're trying to avoid these heat waves. And if you die, no load screen. You literally see your character turning into ash, and it just loads you back a little bit further. And you're just going. It doesn't pause, it doesn't stop, it's just fluid. And that's why I love this game's combat and the puzzles this time around, because it's all meant to be fluid.
And same with the water one. Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually really like those ones.
They were, because they were kind of fun and different too. So
Yeah,
I felt like it like changed things up a bit.
Yeah, so this is why I'm warning people of like, yeah, don't go into this game thinking like, oh, it's going to be a great action game, blah, blah, blah. No, it's just the way the combat works is so good. I loved the combat, because in this one, you know, the first one, it was very much like, here's your arena. Here, you're fighting one guy, fight him, you win, you get to progress in the story. In this, it's very cinematic, and it is so cool. The first time it happened, I was like, what is going on? Like,
I have to stop my audio. I just realized my mic is recording on my webcam mic.
Oh boy.
Does it sound bad on your end?
No, it sounds like normal.
Okay, let me just change this real quick. Oh, it says it's my Yeti, but I don't know if I trust that. All right, sorry. I'm gonna keep on.
But yeah, the first time you do it, you free a guy, and you're also with people, and you hear someone say, hey, she has a sword, let's fight with her, let's fight and help her. And it becomes this big brawl. You're seeing fights in the background going on, and while you're killing one person, like another person organically comes up and like hits you, and so then you have to go into a fight with him. I loved the combat in this game. It was so fun to watch and play.
I didn't mind at the beginning when it was hard to tell when like the cutscenes ended and where you were fighting.
Yeah.
But I think that later on it got a little annoying, just because like it would go back and forth in between the same like combat sequence. And so like I was like, am I throwing the spear? You know the one that was it like E3 or something? They had that the video
giant,
clip. Yeah, and you're throwing the spear. Are you actually throwing the spear?
I don't know. I was just
Because
mashing X.
I hit X and it went, and then the next one I waited and she didn't do anything. I hit X, but I still wasn't certain that I was doing it. So I think that it's a cool feature, but at the same time, sometimes it was a bit much with, you know, what was going on. It was kind of hard to tell when I was supposed to move. But like you said, it's kind of cool that you kind of don't know. And it's funny because even with that, I still found this game so much more accessible. I don't know what it was about this game, but I did the first one. It just, I think it was like everything, like the puzzles, the combat, everything just seemed harder. Like maybe I was doing something wrong. And this, like, it's very clear like where you're going. I even like the markings on like the stones and stuff, but also just like it was the first one like not as linear, if I remember correctly.
The first one, yeah, was a little more open.
Yeah, where this one, you know, I like a linear game. This one, I felt like I knew what I was doing. And sometimes you go off the beaten path. You find those trees and then those like little tower things that have a story.
I have mixed feelings about those. So if you played the first one, you may remember that there was the stones, and you would focus on them, and your old mentor is telling you a story. The first game, it was talking about Sigismund. If you know Norse mythology, it tells you kind of the whole story with Sigismund and like his son and how they turned into wolves and how they had like free their people. In this one, it was I didn't collect them all yet. I'm kind of confused as to who the story is, but this is what always kind of irritates me of like, I like and hate these collectibles that you have in this game, because a lot of times, yeah, the game's linear. You're following a path. People are talking. I want to focus. I want to walk with them, listen to this story, but then I'm noticing trails and paths, and I'm like, well, I guess I got to go walk down these things because I don't want to miss a
yeah.
collectible. So then I'm walking off, and then my companions are standing there like looking at me like I'm a weirdo as I'm looking over things. This time around they added hidden faces. So in the first one they had them a little bit, but it was more like narrative, like your mother talking to you. In this one, they're kind of a hidden puzzle where a human's face will be in the wall and you got to focus on it, and it opens up a path. Really cool transition. But then it tells you another story about like Midgard and like some of the creatures in it. But yeah, I'm very torn. I enjoyed looking for the collectibles and doing the hidden faces, but I also felt like it was taking me away from the story and the environment because I had to walk around and look for things.
Yeah, it almost like I mean, the game doesn't really have loot, but I still felt like I almost should be looking for loot because of those things. But I like the first one. This is the type of game that I love having a walkthrough up during some segments and stuff, especially like in the case.
No,
It's
I want to
fun because
experience
it's like
it.
I'm playing with
Oh
someone,
my gosh, Liz.
and I
You should
love
be
it.
playing with
But
someone. You should be experiencing a story.
no, I'm talking like with like when you're like walking around the cave. I'm not talking about like watching the
Okay.
cutscenes on the phone. I'm not saying like when you're traveling, it's fun to have someone to travel with. Now I don't remember my thought because then I had to defend myself. Um, oh, the faces. But yeah, there was one time that I was watching like a walkthrough and I'm like walking along and I'm just like do 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 and I see them stop at one of the faces. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I was supposed to be looking for those. So I kind of like gave up looking for them. Same with the other thing too, because I'm like, well, I forgot that those were a thing.
Well, so
I
there's a lot for what they cram into the game, and I think that's my biggest issue with it is that there's one of the like little tower collectibles on the first level, and then there's none on the last level. So
Yeah.
that means, and there's 35 of them total. So there's 34 that are jam packed into 4 not short but concise chapters. It's to the point where it's like it took away from what you were saying, Andrew. Felt like a very fluid overall experience. Like I think that well, you had mentioned, Liz, that the combat felt more accessible, and Andrew had said it too. Is that I don't think at any point you fight more than one enemy at a time versus the other one you fought, I think 2, sometimes even 3 in the first one. So having just that one-on-one every time for a fight changed the experience from the fighting. And I don't even mind, like I noticed it, but I didn't mind it. My biggest gripe was the puzzles. Is like in the first one you had, those little like the bird towers you would walk through and the world would change and
yeah.
shift, and those were really cool puzzles. The closest that the second one had here was those little like glowing orbs that you would focus on and it would shift the world upside down. But largely you could see the path as you were looking through it, and it was just kind of like a hit this, walk, hit it again, and then oh, I can't see that one, so now look, there's another one over here. Everything was just very step by step, whereas in the first one you had to like backtrack around and find the right one to complete the puzzle. Or even in this there was times you had to pick something up and then walk it to a pedestal, and you'd be looking at the pedestal from where you picked it up, and they're like, oh no, she'll never find it. Like, well, that seems a little silly. Like, maybe try to make some reasonable doubt here.
I kind of agree. I mean, but for me, like I stink at puzzles. So I like watching the game, the first one, yeah, like those bless you. I definitely like those ones, like watching them, but I'd rather not have hard puzzles. I don't really like that challenge.
Yeah, because I think it would take you out of the story. That's why I loved like
Yeah,
the
the first
difficulty of this
one, the
game.
story was it's harder to get. And so
Yeah.
stopping it made sense. But this one, yeah, I see that point too.
Yeah, and again, it's a minor gripe, but it's not like I'm like, oh, this game isn't worth playing. It's just comparatively, I preferred the puzzles in the first Senua or first Hellblade, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah, and that's what I can kind of understand of like some people's gripes. Says like when it came to the first one, I remember people being like, "Oh, we want the combat improved," and they said, "Oh, the combat will be improved." I think people were expecting more just to this to be more of an evolution of a game, like into another type of like more game mechanics. When I feel like it actually went the opposite way, and they made it more cinematic than actual gameplay. But I don't fault it for that. I just, like, I think that's where it's just depending on what people's expectations are for this game is kind of how their review of it is. And for me, I like that they went more cinematic than they went instead of going more gameplay.
I think that's really my biggest issue with the amount of collectibles at the end of the day. Because while you can go back and chapter select and it tells you how many are in that chapter, there's sub chapters and they don't tell you how it's broken out into sub chapter. And if they did that, at least I wouldn't mind, because it does have a really cool feature, which is narration by other characters in the game.
Yes. Did you start that?
I did, but I didn't actually experience any of them
I just did it for the achievement.
I started it.
I would hear it too. I just didn't go to a level that had a narrator, which I should have done, because I was really curious to see what they would do. And honestly, I mean, it's like 6 to 8 hours. It's not something you can replay, especially where all the mini puzzles even.
I really actually want to play this game again with the different narrators. So there's 2 different sets. The first one you get for beating the game, and you hit your NPCs, your companions are the narrators. And so I just started a new game with it. And so when you're playing the game, you'll kind of hear like a matronly voice as the narrator, which is supposed to be your mother. It was you. No, it's supposed to be your mother from the first one. But this time around, though, so starting the game off, you're getting the voice of the slave trader. He starts off the game and explaining, and he's like, and he even gives so this is obviously why you have to unlock it by beating the game, because he kind of gives spoilers as to what happens, and he's explaining his thought process as the slave trader there at the beginning of the game and why he's doing it. And it's like, this is really cool. So as you're playing, you're meeting the other NPCs. They're essentially telling you their perspective, their motivations, and why they're doing the things that they're doing. Really, really good idea.
See, I want to hear all that, but I don't want to play the game again.
See
that I could see be worth looking up for like YouTube and stuff like that. Like maybe you don't want to replay the whole game, but you want to see it.
See, I'm willing to replay the whole game. Oh, I will say though, there's no skipping cutscenes, which is understandable.
Yes, there is.
There is?
You have to pause the game, I realized, because I paused it for some reason. I think I was trying to look at achievements, and there's an option to skip cinematic, but it has to be like a full-on cinematic.
Oh, because
it's after one of those, like in betweenish, it doesn't let you.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of hard to tell what's a cinematic and not. That's what I love. This game,
there's some pretty dedicated scenes. You know, one thing actually I will say, and I don't think we talked about, is the pacing of it. And this is something I really, really appreciated, because it has the first probably 3 of 6 chapters lead up to you fighting the first giant. And then the very next chapter, instead of doing all of that lead up, it does 75% of the legwork of all that legwork. And then it's like, hey, all right, do this one thing to find out the thing you need to find out, and then fight the giant. And then the
final one's just like, here you go.
Exactly. Like but it doesn't do it in a way that feels rushed either, though. It felt like it was just it made sense to be like, okay, you don't have to go through the whole cave sequence of finding out how you need to find it. Like it was such a good flow to the story and gameplay at the very same time.
I disagree with the final chapter. To me, I wish there was more of the final chapter. I wanted to know a little bit more. To me, that was very much just like, there you go.
This is why I think there's going to be a third one.
Oh no, they are. Third one's been confirmed.
Third?
Yeah, and it got greenlit already. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know. Cal mentioned in our Discord that they had a new project greenlit, but I didn't know it was for this. Yeah, specifically. No. Okay, cool.
I think it's 2 different ones. I think they have a different project, but they did say there's a third, and it did say it's in production.
Okay, and that totally checks out. So I will be interested for that.
But I felt like this one was so different from the other one that I'm like, what? It could just be completely different again. Where it's just like, I kind of hope that the side characters are in the third one.
You think it's that much different of a game?
I do, and maybe I'm just not remembering it well enough because like I don't have a good memory. But I mean, I feel like even like the vibe of the game, like I felt like the first one was just so like red, like not even just fire, but it was just so like. Not samey, but kind of samey with the environment. And
the first one was more black.
Yeah, like black and red and white. Yeah. And like I just felt like the whole vibe of it was different. Where this one, like the environments when you're walking around, the different areas that you're going to that look so different and stuff. Like I feel like even like little things like that, it was just, I don't know, it felt like honestly like a completely different game to me. I will say I think the gore was different. This one,
No, sorry, finish your thought.
I felt like the gore was even different, and in this one, which I don't like gore. Like I don't need to see somebody like a giant eating a person, or I mean, there's lots of different like icky things, but yeah, I actually think I was more like grossed out with this one, if I remember.
You make a good point
correctly.
with the gore. The gore is really weird in this game. So it first starts off of like a shipwreck. You see some people drowning. It's not too bad. But like literally right after that, you go to a village and it is like 10 out of 10 gruesome, gory, dismembered bodies. You're seeing somebody's head getting eaten from like another person. You hear of like an echo of a mother killing her baby, like really dark and bleak.
I didn't hear that.
And then it stops. There's literally no other severe gore moments in the game. Like, yes, you see some giants and like, yeah, you see some people get eaten, but it's like really quick. But like, it is so weird that early in the game, it is like gruesome. And then it's just kind of like, for the rest of the game. It's kind of weird. It didn't pace itself when it came to the violence, which is good. But this is also a fair warning to somebody. If people are sensitive, like the game does give you a warning at the beginning. Like if you know anything about Norse mythology and the Vikings in the era of that time, it is brutal and disturbing. And this game definitely leans into it, at least at the beginning. Like I said, after that main segment, I didn't think it was that bad.
No, not overall. It's what the Droiger and yeah, they don't really. I mean, they show up, but they don't focus on much as you go through.
Yeah.
I say, and even like the combat, some of the enemies are a bit grotesque, but nothing. I don't know, nothing crazy.
Well, I actually think that when it comes to the combat, the thing that grossed me out, like I do not watch things like MMA, boxing. I do not like seeing people being punched in the face. Especially if it's a woman. I mean, I don't know. You can cut that out if you want. I don't know if I can't say that, but like seeing her get punched in the face.
That's a
at my
hot take, Liz.
my
I do. Whoa, Liz doesn't like to see women get punched in the face. Whoa, what a freak!
But for me,
what?
I said especially a woman.
It's
I don't. What
it's
I'm
okay.
saying is
I'm
like
pretty
I
sure
don't
people
want
agree
it to.
with
I
you.
mean, I don't want to see a man get punched in the face either, but especially a woman.
Most people agree with you, Liz.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Like
Andrew doesn't, but most people do.
But I did not like seeing that, and that happened to her a lot.
Yeah.
And I didn't appreciate that. I don't really like that kind of violence.
Oh,
Because
okay.
they look like the graphics are so good. They look like real people. It looks like someone is really punching Senua.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I will say, when it comes to the combat, the finisher moves are gruesome, but they're not like the beginning of the game. Like I said, the beginning of the game, you're seeing piles of
Yeah,
guts
I
and
think
stuff.
we've seen worse.
But I loved the finishers in this game are so good. I only saw a repeat like 2 or 3 times, but you have like just finishers of like you putting a sword in someone and essentially splitting them. But it's not like guts are blowing everywhere, but it is just like visually, it is like, whoa, like that is rough. But it is so organic and fluid that it's so, I don't know, just and in a sound in a sadistic way. I sound psychotic, but it's was awesome to watch.
Well, there's a lot of times I thought there was going to be like heads cut off, and it's not, and that's fine. I'm not saying it needed to be, but there's just like the motion is going to be like, oh, this is going to be, like you said, gruesome, and then I'm like, oh, okay, that was like a 6 of 10.
But you can tell her sword is a little dull. That's why she couldn't clear their heads off, which makes it kind of worse.
That's fair.
But,
well, actually, I think probably the worst ones of it, now that you pointed out, especially speaking of it being dull, would be the ones where she'd like hack into somebody's arm and like you could see her like getting stuck trying to pull it out of their arm.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's kind of gross. Anywho.
It is, but it's like it's so quick, because that's what I love about this combat, because it's like so fast and fluid of, like I said, when you kill somebody, it just instantly throws into the next guy, and just that motion of just you doing this gruesome finisher, and then some other guy's like, "Oh, I think I could take you on," as you just massacred his buddy. Man,
There's only one enemy type I hated, and I'm curious if it was the same if you had one or Liz.
Yeah. So as Liz said, you have like an instant finisher move. It was the flamethrower guys.
Yeah.
Yep. I always saved a finisher. As soon as I saw a flamethrower guy, I'm like, nope, not dealing with him. There was one other guy that also irritated me. The javelin guys were a little annoying. Hatchets weren't too bad.
Yeah.
I could block them. Oh, but here's some pro tips. Because I didn't realize it. I even saw someone on Twitter say it, but in my mind, I was like, oh, I need to see if I can do this. So you can change your controller layout. I highly recommend you swap your bumpers. So naturally, left bumper is sprint and right bumper is block. I recommend switching them. For the longest time, I played about 75% of this game, and I kept hitting left bumper to block. Like naturally, my brain was just like left bumper's block, but it's not. It's sprint.
It's the counterbalance, and the sprint would make sense on the right bumper too, because you're moving with the left trigger, whereas trying to balance the thumb and your index finger on the bumper is uncomfortable.
Yeah,
that's a mixed. I never even thought. Well, I didn't even look to do it, but that absolutely makes sense.
So I highly recommend you do that. Tip. Yeah, do that.
Move that to the beginning of the episode.
I know, probably should. And then the other one, because this is also a segue, I actually recommend for the first time ever in a video game to do no subtitles. I had subtitles on at first, and I was like, this is distracting me. I'm looking at it and I'm reading. Turn off subtitles because you want to listen to this audio and you want to be wrapped in this story. I recommend turning off subtitles.
Oh, I need subtitles.
I'm with you, Liz. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, like even with like movies and TV shows and stuff, like I feel like I'm like kind of deaf. I mean, I've gotten my hearing checked this year, but I think that once you start using subtitles with movies and stuff, because you can't rewind it, and so for me, like I'm so used to it that it would bother me if I didn't.
So
I'll be sitting and watching a show, and I will be like, "Oh shoot!" and I'll go to turn them on, and Amber will look at me and be like, "Oh, I was wondering why I couldn't hear what they were saying. The subtitles weren't on." So I'm with you, Liz.
I remember like I was watching TV with Andrew once, and I kept saying, "What did he say? What did he say?" And you were just like, "Okay, I'm turning on subtitles," and I was like, "Oh, that's why."
Our 6-year-old hates it, but so she always yells at me to turn them off, but I like them on.
Curtis has another recommendation in our Discord. He recommends changing the run button from holding to pressing it. That's actually a good idea. I actually didn't think about that, but that's actually a good one too. But no, as far as the subtitles, why I recommend it, I'm the same way. I always want subtitles on, but for me, it's just the voices in your head are speaking so much, and I got sick of reading it, and I knew the voices in my head weren't giving me important story elements. So I was just like, this is just distracting me. And when it came to the story elements, it was very much camera focused on just a character in Senua. And so I could easily understand the story. It's not like an action sequence is going on and they're being like, oh, let me tell you about your middle while we're in the middle of this action scene. So like, to me, I felt it was just easy enough to hear and understand what was going on. And I wasn't missing any context because I wanted to be engrossed in this story as much as possible.
But then again, like right there. You don't have to read it though. It could be up just in case, you know.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
There was I wanted to bring up a point with your pacing, Keith. For me, so this game is very short. I feel like very few moments where this game kind of like, so there's almost no load screens in this game. This is what's also so incredibly impressive about this game. You get like one load screen when you boot up the game, and that's like it. Anytime you die, anytime like anything like that happens, no load screens. It's just like boom, right back into the game. It is so quick and fluid. And because of that, I always felt like the story was going. So I hated when I had to stop the game. When I got called off to do something, I'm like, because I don't know about you guys. I cannot pause a movie. If I start a movie, I need to finish that movie.
No, I need to pause it.
Liz can pause a movie like 4 or 5 times and watch it within a week.
Well, because they're like an episode of a TV show. Like sometimes I'll start watching, but you know what? I kind of want something more upbeat. And then, like I'll only watch like 15 minutes. Or sometimes I'm just like, oh, I forgot to play the game for the podcast. So, but what's frustrating is like some of the streaming services with ads, if you don't stop it after an ad, it like rewinds
Double
you.
ads and stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, no, for me, like, oh, I can't. A whole movie is a commitment. That's a lot of sitting, and I'm just like, I have stuff I could be doing. It just seems like such a big chunk of your time.
I see. I mean, I don't watch a lot of 6-hour movies, so that could be a start of it. But I don't typically pause movies, I would say. But with this, I don't know, it gets heavy at points. I'm just like, I kind of just needed a mental break. Like I think I split it up into like 2 chapters a piece just about. And by the end, the first one did the same thing. Like it kind of starts to really roll towards the end. But yeah, I think I split it up into like probably like 3 segments, maybe even 4 almost
See,
from a play point.
another thing that I do, whether it's a game, a movie, or a TV show, if I get anxious, or especially if it's like embarrassing, or like I'm nervous something bad's gonna happen, it's like a character that I like, I have to stop.
We
I
were
can't.
watching SpongeBob, and Liz got anxious on SpongeBob.
I'm like, I can't watch this. I need a break.
She was like, oh, it's like it's SpongeBob.
You know, but like there's some shows that like there's one show that I'm on like the last season, and I just completely forgot that I was watching it because I was nervous. And then I was like, I'll go back to it another time, because when you boot it back up, you're not nervous anymore, but then you remember that you're nervous. And so yeah, that happens a lot.
And then if you pick it up too much later, you don't have the same investment to really make the sacrifice of the nervousness worth it, because you're like, well, I don't care about these characters anymore. So that's why you're just gonna pull the Band-Aid off and do it sometimes, Liz.
Well, I'm such a quitter with like, it's like I don't mind not finishing a movie or a TV show or a book or a game if I'm not feeling it anymore. Or like I said, if I forget that I, was liking it, but I was just nervous.
See, if I'm watching a movie, I can't pause it. I gotta finish it.
Yeah, but you get hyper focused on when, like, if for instance SpongeBob, you would think that like someone who is Andrew's seen SpongeBob before, you would think that if you walked in the room and you need to talk to him about something, he would be able to shift his attention. He can't.
You didn't grow up on SpongeBob. You don't know what you're missing.
No, but like when it comes to like you watching something, same with like if you're scrolling on your phone, like you can't focus on that and something else.
I mean, if SpongeBob episode Band Geek comes on, you better be watching that. That is a great
I still haven't watched a single episode of SpongeBob, and you have it on like every day.
I'm gonna replay Band Geek for you. It is like known to be the best episode.
I will watch it. One episode.
We're actually watching it because our 4-year-old daughter actually really likes it. She loves Plankton for whatever reason. She never knows his name. She always calls him the bad guy from SpongeBob.
She always likes the bad guys.
I know. But anyway, back to the game though. Graphics. This game is stunning. Absolutely stunning. I have never. So many games offer a photo mode. I can tell you how many times I've used photo mode in other games. 0. In this game, I was popping it up all the time because it is so gorgeous.
So what is it? You take a picture?
Yeah. It pauses the game and you can move the camera to different angles. So if there's a scene of like Senua fighting, you could pause the game and move the camera to a different angle. You could change the filters, the lighting, focus on a different aspect of it. It's literally like a studio mode. And I didn't realize it, but there's a dedicated button. If you press up on the D-pad, instantly puts you in photo mode. But this game is so gorgeous. We had a handful of people in our Discord like sharing photos, and these photos are so good. Like you do not need to be any sort of master photographer. Literally just at any time, just pause the game, take a screenshot, and it looks great.
I mean, I was gonna say I always lack the creativity, but I guess you're saying I'm wrong. So I don't know. I still didn't really play around with it too much, but I have no disagreement. I mean, the fact that they, like, jokes aside about it blending the lines of video games and movie or whatever, there's so many elements like we talked about in times where you're just like, am I supposed to be playing? Oh yeah, it's gameplay now. It's not cutscene, but it's not because there was some really wonky cutscene. Like you knew you were in a cutscene, and then all of a sudden you weren't anymore, but it looked like you still were, and it's just it just always has the same appeal. Like I remember them showing the trailer, and I'm pretty sure they said that was gameplay footage of the the fight with the giant. And I completely forgot about it until that fight started, and then I forgot that I got to actually experience it
And that's
not
what
just watch it.
but
And
that's
it's
the thing.
so cool.
So many developers say that where they're like, "Oh, this is in-game footage," and it's like, no, it's not. Like, this is obviously dolled up a little bit for E3 or whatever, and it's just to look extra pretty. But then when you actually get the game, it's like, yeah, the cutscene, yeah, you're playing that, but did not look as good as this. So many developers have done that. Developers have been sued because of it, but this one is 100% legit. Like, this is what you're doing. This is the actual gameplay.
Yeah, I was a little nervous because like the cutscene that they had during the E3 or whatever it was for this
Yeah.
with the running scene with the giant. I was nervous to play that because, like I said earlier, I'm like I was nervous I'd have to throw the spears and like actually like hit correctly and stuff, and or maybe have to restart. And so, but yeah, watching it back then and then now, it's like it's just as exciting to watch. Even though I knew it was there, it was coming up.
Yeah. But the graphics too, though, you brought it up earlier, Liz. The like color palette difference between these games are vastly different. The first one, you're going through hell, and so it's very dark and bleak. This one, you have like this land is both terrifying and beautiful. It was weird. I don't know if you guys felt this, but like looking out, it like the mountains, the scenery, the greenery, like there's a good amount of greenery, but this place seems so inhospitable because like every rock is super craggy. Like it looks like if you trip, you would just die. Like the ground is just so rough looking, but the land is so beautiful, but so unwelcoming. It was such a weird feeling, but I loved just the segments of you just walking, talking with your companions, and I love just looking at the scenery. It was so good looking. The only thing that sucks, sorry, you're about to say something. I will say the only thing that sucks about the graphics is the water. The water do not look that good.
There was parts where I felt like it did. Like I don't know, there's a river running alongside at one point, and I thought that was pretty good. But I guess overall it was kind of maybe the biggest lacking. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was like it seemed like Iceland, Greenland, something like that. I mean, it's Norse, so I guess it could be more like Norway, Sweden, and all that. I don't know.
Yeah, I
but
wasn't sure either.
Either way, I mean, I agree with you. They make it look both beautiful and uninviting all at the same time. And I didn't hate all the teeth. There's still something about Senua, but I don't think it's bad design. I think that's like, and this is like, I don't know how the right way to say it. I think that's just genuinely how the voice actor, like how she looks when she talks. Like some people have that, like their upper lip pulls up a little more, like especially when they're talking, like yelling and screaming like she is. So I think that's just how the voice character or that, overall character is,
Actress.
or that actress is in real life. And so I'm like, okay, I can actually accept it because not every character is doing that. Like some games, it's just like every character is wicked toothy.
Yeah.
Like, no, this is weird.
No, it's definitely how she is. I don't know.
Yeah, and so like I can appreciate it for what they're doing in Senua is what I'm getting. And because they do it so well, like it really conveys so well the emotion when she's like screaming into essentially the void, at the giants or whatever it may be. And it's just it's very intense.
Yeah, there's another making of in this game. I don't know if you guys watch it at all, but that is how the actress is. She has a little bit more of a toothy smile.
I've seen some behind the scenes, and yeah, but I forget. I don't even know if I looked it up. I don't know why I said I forget. Do all of the characters match the voice actors by looks?
I didn't see the other people, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because
Well,
it
it's
seems
all
like
motion cap, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
oh, okay.
But I was even impressed. Like that's the other thing studios usually also suck at is females' hair, especially with a long braid. And her hair actually worked really well. It like flowed in the cutscenes and actually
I mean,
had
she
like proper
wasn't
physics.
super hot, so I'm angry. Where was the aggressive sexuality? How dare they make a realistic human? I'm offended.
PlayStation gets Stellar Blade, we get Heller Blade.
It's disgusting how they make her look so realistic. I hate it.
But
That's a joke in case anyone wasn't sure.
But yeah, the performance and the graphics of this game, like that's the other thing too. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the weather effects in this game are awesome. And it always conveyed with her mood and what she was going through. Like that's the other thing. Like because at first it was annoying me. I'm like, what the heck? It was just daytime. Now it's nighttime. Now it's rainy. Like what's going on? And it actually was more conveying her mood. So that's another thing where it's like, oh, is this actually happening? Obviously, it did context wise of the story explain like what's kind of going on. But this game literally goes from rocky beach to beautiful countrysides to jagged mountains to like a fiery hellscape lava mountainside to snow covered fields. Like it literally hits just about every beat of environments that you could go through.
There's an underwater scene.
Well, kind of in a deep dark cave. It's great. This game is such a visual treat. I would say this is probably the most beautiful game I've ever played. But achievements, this game is 100% for achievement hunters. It is very easy, as the first one was. There's collectibles you got to get, but they're very easy to find. It even tells you if you passed it. So you're like, you kind of know, oh, I just missed it between this point and this point. Easy for walkthrough. This game is an easy 1,000 score.
Yeah, we're all tied. We all got 800 out of 1,000 with 9 out of 11 achievements. We just didn't get the collectible ones.
Yeah, which I'm going back to do. But yeah, let's get into our final thoughts.
Wait, did we do music?
Oh, we didn't. Liz, thank you.
I know we did sound earlier.
I just
like
thought we were
headsets
already at like
and
an hour. And I
stuff.
was like,
yeah.
Wait, we must have done music. The audio in this game is once again a 10 out of 10. Once you get to the hidden world, it's a dark cave. If you need to be wearing headsets, especially for that moment, when you're in this cave and you're hearing these footprints behind you, the voices, the echoing, and visually too, when it starts to go in the cave where it sparkles, oh man, I first was like, oh, cave segment. These always annoy me in a game. It actually was probably my favorite moment of the game was the hidden world. I love that segment.
Yeah. No, I don't really have a lot to contest with that. I don't remember so much music. I will be honest. I know that it's good. Like I can remember bits and parts, especially like when you're in those intense scenes with like the giants and all of that.
The first giant fight and the fires going off of like the base. That was awesome.
That was really cool. I do remember that in particular, but overall it's just the audioscape of the dialogue and the voices and you said, I don't just overall the environments, because even, whether it's the weather effects or when it's bright and sunny and you're hearing birds chirping and the stream going next to you and it's just peaceful and quiet. It seems so nice. So overall, the audio is it's all part of what makes it what it is.
No complaints over here either. 10 out of 10.
Liz,
there we go. There was the audio, Liz. You guys showed up for it.
I paid attention. Let me just reiterate everything that you said.
She's got a point.
So that's true. All right, so we'll get our final thoughts here. So for me, like I said, if you just know what you're getting into with Hellblade 2, really will determine kind of your score in this game. For me, I knew what I was going into. I by the end, I knew they just really wanted to tell a story. They really just wanted to, like I said, I hate this phrasing, but blur the line between a cinematic and gameplay. I think they absolutely nailed it. I loved this game's story. It stuck with me. When the credits were rolling, I was like, that was awesome. I have very little complaints of what I would change in the second one. I love the combat. I thought it was fluid. The puzzles are very easy. Like there was never a moment in this game where I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. I loved this game. Was a ride and it was a ton of fun. I'm giving it a 95. It probably won't be my game of the year as high of a score as I'm giving it. Cause like I said, story is 10 out of 10 for me. The audio is 10 out of 10, graphics 10 out of 10. it's just like, I don't think I'd give it my game of the year because it's not much of a game. It's more of a cinematic experience, but it is so worth your time.
So when we've played the first Hellblade, I kind of thought I knew what I was getting myself into, and I, like Liz in this one, thought I largely wasn't going to enjoy it, and I was very surprised. So I knew what I was getting myself into with Hellblade 2, but at the same time, I think that was it for me, not what took away from it, but some of the things that I went, oh, I kind of want some of Hellblade 1 back here. That said, I don't think it was any detriment to the game, and I think that, like you said, Andrew, it really just always felt like it was flowing. I think the largest gripe about it is the large number of collectibles for such a short period of time crammed together, because it made the game a little less flowing when I feel like I'm trying to stop and look for all these things when I really just want to be engaged with continuing the story onward. There's very few games that we play that I go, oh, good, a new cutscene, and I'm actually interested to find out what's going to happen. I enjoy the visual, the audio, the dialogue, the story. All of the things are interesting to me. So when we come across one of those games, it's always going to be a little bit special, I would say. So yeah, I think I would recommend playing the first one just because I think the actual added play of it is such a nice, like, overall combo. Even though you have the recap is just kind of a nice thing to have. But if you don't play it or you can't play it and you just want to play this one, don't skip on it. It's such a good time and well worth it. So I think I go with a 93. 94.
Oh, thanks. I was gonna give it 93, but I liked it more than Keith.
No,
Did
just
you?
go with your
How
score.
did you know?
So we're 93, 94, 95.
Because I feel like
Give it a
you
96.
because you were saying like, "Oh, I missed this from Hellblade 1," and
Give it a 94.5.
I actually don't remember what I gave the first one, so
I feel yeah, I don't know what I gave the first one either. I just felt like you had more negatives than me. Not that you were negative, but you definitely had more things that you thought were negative about the game. But I also, I'm like, what would give it that extra 7 points? I just, like, for me, 93 just, like, shot out of my brain. I was like, 93. And I was thinking about that number before we started, but I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, what would make it but anyways, that's I'll think about that later. Looking at Metacritic for Series X, 81 and 7.5, and most of the negative reviews are about how it's not a game. But like, there's tons of games that are walking simulators.
Yeah.
A lot of people were like, "Oh, it took this amount of years for this amount of hours of gameplay." Yeah, but you're getting that's not graphically. You need more time to make a game
Yeah.
this beautiful. With like I just so I felt like a lot of like the zeros were just kind of, people didn't really get it.
that's nonsense. That's internet nonsense. And
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, when you like, whatever, maybe it shouldn't have taken them this long to make the game, whatever. But these new engines come out, and this is one of the first games to like truly embrace the new Unreal Engine. So I'm sure there was probably mostly built on an old one, and then they went, crap, we need to repivot here and do this whole thing over again. So that probably added some time. And it's just, I don't know, for the beauty of it. Like, there's so many games. Like, I remember Starfield being a huge hype of graphics and everything, and it was great. But for me, it just didn't do much as what Senua did. So I agree.
Yeah. All right, but we're gonna wrap it up here. So thank you all so much for joining us. Please, and thank you again to our sponsor, Magic Mind. Like I said, I have the link and the code in our description. Check out the product; it's very good. If you have any game suggestions or you want to reach out to us or join our Discord, we love the people that have joined us in the Discord. It always kind of makes us laugh. Yeah, you can find all our links at our linktree/GBGB, or go to GamePassGrabBag.com. It also brings you there. Also, too, me and Keith, so we have a Patreon, but me and Keith have started a free section. We've always been wondering, like, some people have been wondering, like, they wanted to check out our Patreon. So me and Keith are doing episodes of just me and him. So check out our Patreon. We have one episode up there so far, Orcs Must Die 3. Go to our Patreon. So yeah, even if you don't want to be a paid member, we obviously appreciate if you support us. But yeah, we'll have some free stuff content for people out there. Hopefully you like me and Keith, because you'll be getting more of us. Yeah, take it away, Keith.
We don't have to go deep into spoilers, but I just have a burning question that I need your thoughts on. I can just ask you later.
No, go ahead. What?
Are there really giants? First of all, the whole concept of they're basically like kind of ghosts, like they're just haunted spirits, and they're like haunted. But that last one is just you never see the giant. You just take away his power by telling people that he's using the giants, which I think he's just really just controlling through the belief that the giants exist, but they don't really exist. But then also the other people saw the giants and they saw you kill them. So that's where I'm super confused.
I was a little confused with that too. I think there's just no giant at the end.
There's no actual Titan. He just uses the other giants and his invented Titan. But he somehow is like a spirit that controls them.
Yeah. See, this is
because then there's also the whole like the giants came over from Jotunheim, but then also they were just people who were here and then got turned into giants. So then they didn't really come from Jotunheim because they were just people who turned into giants. And it's not even a plot hole. I don't know that I grasp what it actually is. And it's kind of, I think the whole thing of Senua of like nothing's real, but everything's real at the same time.
Yeah. No, it kind of confused me a little bit too. I'm pretty sure it's just the end. There really isn't much of a giant. It is more of just people's fear. But this is what I loved about the story, because there is like a little bit of that interpretation, but it's all developing her as a character, because this whole point of this adventure is to fulfill the promise of the person she loved. And so she's meeting these different people that they obviously had people they loved. The first guy, he's, their philosophy was essentially, we're going to stay on a hill, isolate ourselves, and just shelter ourselves. Like that's how they protect their loved ones. Then you meet the slave trader guy. They protect their loved ones by sacrificing people. Then they meet the female, and her thought process is, we're going to have open arms and love anyone who comes in. But of course that hurts them. So that's what I love at the end. It's like, what is Senua going to do? Like she's meeting all these different people, and in the end, it all hurts their loved ones. It all hurts them. What is she going to become? So as far as like the giants, I think they do exist, because they see them. You see people get killed by them. I think it's just the last giant doesn't exist.
Fair.
Never thought of. Oh no, I did think about that where it didn't show it at the end, but I didn't think too much of it, to be honest. But I'm glad you brought it up. So now, because now you know.
But anyway,
that was really my one big spoiler that I couldn't help but wrap my head around.
Senua's gonna sacrifice. All right, but that's your outro, Keith.
Yeah, you can edit that all out.
And I'm Liz Noob Gamertag, coming. I'm Dean. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Liz Noob Noob.
All right, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us. We love you all. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye. You should just cut that one clip of